In 1953, Dr. Mohommad Mossadegh was elected as the Prime Minister of Iran, and he began making radical reforms that made Iran powerful and self-sufficient, and protected the country from British, American, and Soviet exploitation. However, Mossadegh was eventually forcefully removed from power in an American and British-backed military coup. Mohommad Mossadegh was born in 1882. He was the son of an influential minister who served during the Qajar monarchy. During his youth, Mossadegh witnessed the corruption of the Qajar monarchy and became a supporter of Iran's constitutional revolution. He openly criticized unequal treaties imposed on Iran by the Russian Empire, such as the Treaty of Turkmenchay, which stated that all Russians in Iran were only subject to Russian law and could not be persecuted by Iranian courts. Mohommad Mossadegh later went to Switzerland, where he obtained a master's degree and a PhD in law from Neuchâtel University. He wrote his master's thesis on Islamic law, and his PhD thesis was on the topic of government responsibility for illegal actions of ministers while performing their duties. In this thesis, Mossadegh criticized the Iranian government's policy of extraditing political criminals. Mossadegh returned to Iran at the beginning of the First World War and was appointed to serve in the Ministry of Finance. However, Mossadegh eventually resigned from the Ministry of Finance due to a dispute with the Minister of Finance, who signed an agreement with the British, handing over the supervision of Iran's finances and army to British advisors. After he resigned from the Ministry of Finance, Mossadegh left the capital and went to the province of Fars, which was underdeveloped and neglected by the corrupt Iranian government. Mossadegh toured the province and became popular among the local Bakhtiyari tribes and the poor people of the province, who eventually elected him as the governor of the province. During his time as the governor of Fars province, Mossadegh tried to develop the province and bring new infrastructure into the region. During his time in the Iranian government, he also tried to fight corruption, and he launched cases against corrupt government officials who were stealing government money. During the reign of Hassan Pirnia, Mossadegh was appointed as the Iranian Minister of Foreign Affairs. He strongly advocated against British influence in Iran, and as the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Mossadegh also invited many anti-British figures to Iran, such as Sheikh Mehdi al-Khalisi, who was one of the leaders of the Iraqi revolt against the British. Mossadegh's influence in the parliament continued to increase, and when Fatullah Akbar became the Prime Minister of Iran, Mossadegh supported his decision not to implement Iran's unequal oil exploration treaty with the British government. However, Fatullah Akbar was eventually overthrown in a military coup led by the British-backed army officer known as Reza Shah, who overthrew the Iranian monarchy and declared himself the new king of Iran. However, Mossadegh did not recognize the government of Reza Shah and openly spoke out against his rule, calling him a tool of the British. Mossadegh also resigned from the Iranian government in protest. However, his house was raided and he was imprisoned and tortured. Mossadegh was eventually released and exiled to his village in the countryside, and he was not allowed to participate in politics. During his time in his native village, Mossadegh focused on helping the rural community which had been deprived of basic needs by the corrupt government. He opened a pharmacy where medicine was distributed for free to villages, and he loaned money to those in need. Mossadegh also built an insulated shed to keep ice in the summertime, and distributed free bags of grain to each of his workers during the month of Ramadan. After the occupation of Iran by Soviet and British forces during World War II, Reza Shah was removed from the throne and exiled to South Africa. Therefore, Mossadegh came back from exile and returned to the Iranian parliament. In order to counter Soviet pressure to obtain oil concessions in northern Iran, Mossadegh passed a bill that prohibited the government from negotiating oil concessions as long as foreign forces were in Iran. The British and Russian troops eventually withdrew from Iran after mediation from the United Nations. After the end of World War II and the death of Reza Shah in exile, his son became the new king of Iran. As a result, Mohommad Mossadegh was now back on the political scene, and he once again became active in Iranian politics. After returning to the Iranian parliament, he called for the nationalization of Iranian oil and created a political movement known as the National Front, which was an alliance of multiple political parties in Iran. Mossadegh gave charismatic speeches about the importance of liberating Iran from Western influence, and he managed to unite parties such as the Iranian Nation Party, the Mujahid Muslim Community Party, the Pan-Iranist Party, and the Socialist God-worshipping movement. As a result, Mossadegh and his National Front became the most powerful Iranian nationalist political organization of the time. Mossadegh's national movement even attracted independent politicians such as Jalal Ahmed, who was an ex-member of the Iranian Communist Party and had become disillusioned with both communism and capitalism. Therefore, he saw Mossadegh as a national savior who could save the country from both Western and Soviet influence. Apart from parties and politicians, Mossadegh's movement also attracted Islamic scholars such as Ayatollah Kashani, who rallied religious people in support of Mossadegh. Mossadegh once stated, "The moral aspect of oil nationalization is more important than its economic aspect." In 1953, Mossadegh was elected Prime Minister of Iran. Straight after becoming Prime Minister, Mossadegh nationalized Iran's oil industry. This was a huge blow to the British, as the British had previously owned 51% of the Anglo-Iranian Oil Company, which was nationalized by Mossadegh and renamed the Iranian Oil Company. After removing British influence from Iran, Mossadegh also prevented the Iranian government from negotiating with American companies to obtain Iranian oil, and he expelled all foreign oil companies from Iran. Mossadegh also stopped giving oil concessions to the Soviet Union in northern Iran. This helped further increase oil production and fostered self-sufficiency. However, this made the Communist Party of Iran turn against Mossadegh. Mossadegh wanted Iran to be independent from all foreign powers, including the Soviet Union. Although he agreed with some of the ideas of the Communist Party, he disagreed with their blind obedience to the Soviet Union. He stated, "I strongly support labor rights. However, this principle is not unique to communism. Rather, from the beginning of human society, every person with a conscience was not satisfied that one person was deprived of bread while others eat so much that they burst their stomachs." I also do not agree with some of the principles of communism, including the opposition to individual freedom. Individual freedom is the undeniable right of members of every society, and there is no limit to freedom except where the freedom of others begins. In addition to the nationalization of oil, Mossadegh conducted a variety of other political reforms, such as the nationalization of Iranian fisheries and obtaining exclusive fishing rights for Iranian fishermen in the Mazandaran Sea. Mossadegh also invested in the water piping of all Iranian cities and also invested in modern infrastructure in rural areas. He conducted many agricultural reforms, such as the creation of a fund for rural development projects, and he gave financial assistance to farmers. He also banned forced labor and established the national social security system for workers. Mossadegh also invested in education and allocated 5% of the government budget towards constructing new schools across the country. During his time as Prime Minister, Mossadegh also established the Tehran Lawyers Association. Mossadegh also changed the government's policy of interference in universities, and he believed in the independence of universities. He stated, "A university is a scientific institution, and the government should not interfere in it. The dean of a university is an academic official and is not under the influence of the government. As a result, he can help the future builders of the country and promote Iran's progress." He also defended freedom of press, freedom of religion, freedom of political affiliations, and free elections. Mossadegh believed that the Shah should only be a symbol of unity and should not be directly involved in political affairs. Mossadegh was against all forms of dictatorship and believed in democratic rule. He stated, "Strong European countries such as Germany and Italy, which reached a privileged position due to their dictatorial regimes, eventually fell into a terrible fate, and that is the cause of the misery of the world today." Therefore, Mossadegh tried to limit the power of the Shah. Apart from his revolutionary policies inside Iran, Mossadegh also spoke out against colonialism and Western exploitation in other countries around the world. As Prime Minister, Mossadegh formed strong ties with countries such as Egypt and India. He also spoke out against French colonialism in his speech in the United Nations. Mossadegh called for the freedom of Tunisia and Morocco from French rule, and he sent Iranian delegations to North Africa to help negotiate independence from French rule. As a result, both the Shah and the Western powers wanted Mossadegh to go. Shortly after Mossadegh expelled all foreign oil companies from Iran, the British government filed an official complaint to the UN Security Council. However, the International Court did not consider itself competent to deal with the British complaint, and the British were not able to get rid of Mossadegh through legal means. Therefore, Western powers decided to remove Mossadegh from power through a military coup. On 18th August 1953, Mossadegh was forcefully removed from power in a coup that was funded and planned by the US and Britain. Mossadegh was not interested in holding on to power and called on his supporters not to take to the streets in order to prevent bloodshed and civil war. Throughout his reign as Prime Minister, Dr. Mohommad Mossadegh did not receive a salary and he spent the Prime Minister's expenses from his own pocket. Mossadegh spent the rest of his life in house arrest and passed away in 1967.